again, 2003, we had the infamous Emmitt Smith roast.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to keep this thing rolling. Another person that does not know anything about Emmitt Smith and you don't know who the fuck he is, give it up for Doug Williams.
Now, that's what Jamie Foxx, and we'll get into that, how to me, he didn't roast you, he heckled you. That's how I see it. I don't see that as, that's not roasting rules to me. Like, you know, there's a way to, when you roast somebody, you're on the pulpit and you go, hey, you know, Doug or whatever, and you take a shot there. You don't heckle the man. That's like, so that goes against so many taboos to me.
I want to say this to Emmitt Smith, man.
I'm your conscience.
It is a pleasure.
Man, it sure did get hot in here. Am I fucking up right now? I'm your conscience. I really don't need to be up here right now. I don't know what the fuck I was thinking.
These brothers start making money, you can't tell them shit.
You know what's funny about that though, man? It's almost like the wolf killing the sheep and people coming down on the sheep. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
you're a sheep. You got, because at the time, you know, when you look at that panel, and I talked about this when I was on Vlad TV, and I talked about this. When you look at that roast, it was star-studded. It was Michael Irvin. It was Dick Gregory, whom I had a chance to work with when I had this show with Martin Lawrence.
Icon and legend.
It was it was Monique. It was what was the coach of the Cowboys? Jimmy
Johnson.
Jimmy Johnson. It was and I just recalled Stuart Scott, the late Stuart Scott.
Yes.
He was on there. And man, you want to talk about another great guy. After that happened, he talked to me. He pepped me up. He was like, hey, Doug, man, he wouldn't let me hold my head down. But anyway, the crazy thing about the roast is that, you know, I didn't have a career. Nobody knew who I was. And I don't think, and I always say, I don't think Jamie did it. It wasn't a thing where he was just trying to, like, you know, hey, this is going to go viral, because at the time there was no YouTube, there was no social media.
Right.
But yeah, I got killed on social media by a lot of people as if I was like this juggernaut. I was this big guy who had gotten taken down. And that always baffled me, is that I was a nobody up there trying to make something happen, trying to just get something going in my career. And people look at it as almost as I was a villain in that. That's what's funny about that to me.
I wish I was in a movie with Jamie. Maybe
You're right about
48 hours.
You are right about that.
72 hours.
In fact,
I don't know.
In fact, nigga, I need a co-signer. Can you co-sign on the car for me?
I just did another joke that didn't go over. I'm your conscience.
The first time I saw that, obviously through the years, and I never once laughed at you. You know what I'm saying? I never once said, oh man, Jamie's so fun. Every single time I ever watch it, from the very first time I ever watch it, and you know, who knows, maybe Jamie Foxx will watch this and hate me or whatever. But I always thought that Jamie Foxx was the biggest asshole for that. Because that's not the laws of comedy. You don't shit on your fellow comedian, heckle him like that, without, you know. And I think you mentioned this on Vlad too, without a redemption at the end. You know, hey, I'm just, you know, he just let you hang, and you know, all that, and
maybe I should say something nice about Emmitt and wrap it up. Or maybe I should talk about how black people have to struggle. Yeah, that'll get them on my side.
You know, and for me, when I put myself in your shoes in that scenario, which, you know, we've all been in similar situations, but not to that degree, right? And then it goes viral years later. And then, like you said, every couple of years it goes viral. You got to relive this shit. Oh, but the thing is, for me, if it would be, the hardest part isn't so much what Jamie was doing, right? Jamie's just being an asshole. It's part of my language on these things. I try to keep it clean most of the time, but to me, the hardest part would be looking over and seeing Dick Gregory and you know, the Tory brothers or whatever, all sitting there laughing, looking over, and there's Emmitt, and he's, you know, everybody's trying. That to me would be the hardest to get past? How did you handle it?
You know, it's funny because, like I said, for a long time it bothered me, and then, you know, through just nighttime conversations with my wife about it, and then once my kids saw it, and you know, I really wish I had embraced it a lot earlier than I have, because, you know, when I look back on it now, it and this is my own, these are my own personal thoughts. I think that Jamie looks back on it in the same vein. I almost think he looks back on it now and say, you know what? Because I think when something is happening, you don't have time to access what's going on. You're just caught up in the moment. But I think because he's been, you know, really nice to me since then. After the roast, like I said, when this show was coming out, he would always make sure that I would come on and promote what I was doing. I've seen him a few times, always really friendly. When he sees me or what have you. But, you know, I think everything just kind of slowed down when it was happening. You know, I didn't see them laughing. I just remember to this day, I did not want to be there, that I didn't want to do that roast. And whenever something happens to you and your first mind wasn't to do it, it echoes as it's going on. Like, I've done this.
Yeah, like your sixth sense was telling you, you were feeling the warning signs, you know?
Yeah.
Because like you said too, in I think it was the Vlad interview, that you may have felt a little bit like it was a setup. And I could see that in a way too. You know, them saying, all right, you know what, this is our sacrificial lamb here. We're going to put him up there. This is where Jamie's going to do his thing. And or whatever.
I really do think it was. I really do think that it was that. And here again, that's after doing it. I just replayed everything that went along with that. I just remember. I distinctively remember wanting, because I didn't want to be there. And if you know, I spoke about this. I was doing it because my manager at the time, it was the first thing that they had gotten me, the management company. They thought it was a great opportunity, and I didn't want to say no. I don't want to do that. You know, with the first thing that they're giving you. So I really wanted to just get it out of the way. I remember when I got there saying, hey, I saw the lineup, I saw all these heavy hitters, and I just wanted, hey, you know what? Let me just go up, get it out of the way, and then I can sit back and then just enjoy the rest of the roast.
Yeah, exactly.
And they were like, yeah, no problem, man. I haven't seen a problem with that. And then all of a sudden, you know something when they come back to you and they're not smiling, they go, yeah, so yeah, you're gonna be going next to last. And I was like, really? And they were like, yeah, you know, we gotta, you know, work it out like this. So when that came, I mean, after I replayed all of them in my mind, and the fact that he wanted his microphone to stay on at all times, you know, it seemed like a setup to me. Now I could be wrong. I'm just giving you how I felt and looking back on it and just surveying it. That's what I felt.
I agree. I think, you know, for him to want the mic on the whole time was basically saying, I am going to heckle people at certain times. I want to be able to intervene, you know, and all that. Because he did something similar to the Cowboys player, Darryl Johnson.
Yeah, you know what? And a lot of people don't know, man, you must have really watched the whole thing. He was furious about that. In fact, he wanted to get violent about that. And he had to be talked to and told, hey, you know, this is, you know, don't do that. But he was really, really furious about that.
I'll let him go. I'm not a comedian. I'm not going to take shots. I'm just going to talk about Emmitt. I'll talk to Jamie afterwards behind closed doors. We'll get this whole thing straightened out.
And I remember this, the reason he was furious, not so much that Jamie did that, because, you know, he's a comedian, but to him, he wanted to give Emmitt a send-off. It was that roast, Emmitt was nearing the end of his career. So it was supposed to be a roast to celebrate his career. Now it turned into something else. So he was there to really say, to give some heartfelt, you know, goodbyes and some stories. And he felt like it took away from that. So he was really, really upset.
If you see him with a star on his forehead later tonight, you know we got everything settled.
You know, you just brought up something in talking about this that got lost in the shuffle. I'm just remembering that and talking about it. Every time I talk about this, something else. It's been buried in the back of my subconscious for so long. Your conscious.
Yeah.
It's been buried there for so long that every time I talk about it, something new comes to the forefront.
Yeah, because you know some memories you just want to forget them. Yeah. But yeah,
I do want people to know though. You know, it doesn't bother me anymore. You know, it's actually helping me now. It's actually, you know, it has done some things for me now. It's almost, you remember, I don't know if you're a sports fan, but you remember that, I can't remember the pitcher's name, but he missed that ball that was coming to first base. Remember, it was in a World Series. He missed that ball. It rolled past him, and he got ostracized.
Little roller up along first. Behind the bag. It gets through Buckner. Here comes Knight, and the Mets win it.
They killed him for it. And I mean, this is almost reminds me of that. But then after a while, they started to recognize him for his accomplishments. And thank God, before he died, that city, they embraced him. They gave him so much love for all the things that he did do. And that's kind of what's happening with this roast now, you know, after all these years.
Exactly. And I think, you know, lesser men such as myself in that scenario would have packed it up and just, you know, I don't know what I would have done, to be honest. But you kept moving forward and persevered through it. How was that process to get over that, you know, in the first,
well, it's funny because that, you know, here's what people fail to realize. That came out in 2003, but we shot that before it came out. So I want to say we shot that in 2002, 2001. I think it debuted on the DVD in 2003. We had done it like a year before that.
Oh, wow.
And then, you know, like I said, they didn't have all of these social media platforms. So it just kind of disappeared, you know, so for like about until 2006, until it resurfaced, it never affected me. But then when it resurfaced, and keep in mind, the effects of that were felt from that whole YouTube. I mean, there's a whole new, you're a stand-up comedian, right?
Yeah, I was. Yeah.
Well, you know stand-up.
Yeah,
but,
yeah, I know stand-up.
You know, you have people that come to the club that see us, the normal, and then you have a whole new YouTube comedy generation that's out there that, you know, just want to see comedy on YouTube, and they love these famous YouTube comedians. And these are not necessarily comedy goers. You know, they like to click comedy. So that generation is the one, they saw it, and they're the ones that essentially tried to kill me and say I'm destroyed and, you know, I never worked. But they don't realize that I went on after that to create a show with Martin Lawrence called Martin Lawrence Presents the First Amendment that gave a platform to 100 or so comedians. Included in that was Dr. Ken. Dr. Ken it was probably his first television appearance. He did that show.
Wow.
Cheryl Underwood, Dion Cole, so many people did the show that I created with Martin, and people don't know about that. So, you know, I always tell people, it never killed my career. It just, it blew up to a generation who weren't familiar with me, who didn't check to see what else I was doing, and that's what happened.